Hi guys, and welcome to Love Shock. In this episode we are going to be talking about how food directly impacts our sexual health and energy levels in relationships. I'm here with Gabriella. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, do you want to explain your background in...
Absolutely. As you know, my name's Gabriella Hughes. I am an integrative healer and registered holistic nutritionist. My focus is balance, presence, and intention.
Perfect. That sounds really interesting. So this episode we're going to dive in more depth about how foods affect our orgasms, our relationships, and yeah, shall we dive in?
Very excited.
Let's do it. How does what we eat affect our sexual health and relationships?
I think if we look at the broader scope of things, it's not so much about what we eat affecting our sexual relationships, but what we eat affecting ourselves and our bodies and our well-being.
Okay.
And this might be a little bit boring, but we start at the core. We start at ground zero. So there is not very much point for me to start with, and for us to start with saying, okay, let's start taking this mushroom or this here and this there, when your body isn't in a place to be able to receive that. So if we're talking about where to begin, it's making sure that your body is in balance. It's making sure that your gut microbiome is working happily and effectively. You know, a lot of our serotonin comes from our gut microbiome. So that's going to affect how happy we are, how relaxed we are. If you're feeling very bloated and nothing's really working, or you're feeling very fatigued, nothing's really working, then you're not going to be feeling like you want to date. If you're in a relationship, you might find that you're not feeling so sexy and connecting with your partner because you're feeling bloated, fatigued, cranky, all of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Been there.
And actually, interestingly, because of our gut microbiome can be shared within partners, obviously within sex, lots of things are shared.
How does our gut microbiome, how's that shared? Oh, that was a really stupid question.
It's not a stupid question. It's via bodily fluids.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
As I was saying the answer comes to my
But that makes sense. It's as you connect. So we're actually finding that people, there was a study done, I think in 2019, I'm not entirely sure, but that basically said when you live with somebody and it's a long-term sexual relationship, let's say, I don't want to just say couples because obviously then classes out asexual couples or things like that. But if you're in a long-term sexual relationship that you live together, people are finding that you share 30% of your microbiome. So you have 30% of the same type of microbiome, and you have to think about there are billions and billions of types, and you have there's a few hundred types. You have billions and billions of them. And that is, you share 30% of that with your partner. And the longer you live together with that sexual partner,
the higher it goes up.
The higher it goes up.
That's insane.
Yeah, so if your partner has a partner, if your partner has a problem,
my problems with a lot of my partners.
if your partner has a problem, chances are that's going to affect you.
Oh, wow.
So if your partner isn't taking care of their body, has high candidiasis, which is the overgrowth of fungus in the body, then you might be finding that as a woman you're having an increased amount of thrush. If your partner is eating trash, you might find that if there is an exchange of that bodily fluid, you're probably not feeling so comfortable afterwards, or you're not feeling great. It goes into a lot of detail.
A lot of sense right now.
There's a sort of pseudo study, because it's very hard to study. It's very hard to do this as a scientific study, and it's illegal and immoral to study, to test people. So you can't really put people under this kind of microscope. You just have to sort of watch how relationships are happening and what you're finding. So it's more correlation. We're finding more correlation than we can definitively find causation. But what's found is people who, for example, have allergies, or they're very celiac or things, if they have a partner who is male, for example, and they're a female, and their partner is eating all the things that they can't eat. So if they can't do dairy, they can't do any sort of grain, they can't do any sort of gluten, and then that male partner eats all that and then ejaculates into them, they might find they don't feel so great. They might find that they have a bit of a reaction. They might find that there's a bit of Dysbiosis, irritation, inflammation. Maybe you get thrush. Maybe you get BV.
Wow. That's really interesting. I did not know that at all. Wow.
It's one of those things that, and it can be very difficult to start to explain that to somebody, saying, by the way, what you eat is affecting my body, because we're all, our bodies are our bodies, and we can be a bit protective over what we eat.
How would you even start that conversation?
Hi, when you eat dairy, I get thrush.
Wow.
I mean, that you could be very blunt about it, or you can say, hey, let's make a little scientific study out of it. Because also if you think about it, if you have your mouth somewhere and then you put your mouth somewhere else, right? And there is no cleaning. The way that I would often describe it to people, clients, and anyone that I would engage with is you wouldn't go inside a nice house with dirty feet.
Yep.
You would wipe your feet, one would hope.
Yes.
So why are you coming into my nice house and putting your hands all over things when they're not clean?
Yeah.
So if you've gone out and you've touched the world, and then you come and touch me, and then I get a bit iffy, I feel a bit funny, that's not my problem, that's an us problem.
Yeah.
If you've been eating things that my body doesn't love, or eating high grease stuff, eating stuff that high sugar things, and then you are then putting that mouth in sensitive areas. Especially for women, like the vagina is it's all internal. It's a very delicate bacteria balance. It's a very delicate fungal balance, pH balance. And then that's getting messed up because some guy has been eating, deep fried something covered in cheese and then decides to put that mouth on that vagina. It's going to transfer something that probably doesn't feel so great. And then we wonder why we're having to do some cleanup.
Yeah. Oh, God. I was going to say it's all the men's fucking fault.
But it's also education.
I would say probably most of my friends do not know this at all. Why is this not being taught in sexual health?
That's a much bigger conversation.
Okay.
That's a much bigger conversation. I think it's to do with societal understanding, societal expectations.
Yeah.
Government policies, religious policies, that all has to come into, and what parents want their kids to know and be taught at certain ages. Personally, I think this is all good information. This is all hygiene, but also a lot of places still teach that abstinence is best to kids.
Yeah.
Would this be good information to have when we're in our 20s and exploring? Yes, but there is also still that huge, I would say, focus on what it means for a woman to be good, what it means, So if we're then, I think there is still, it is changing, but it's very slowly changing, where we are allowing women to be educated and know what they want without it being, without it being focused on the women who live their best life in hot girl summer, and then therefore they are marked with the scarlet A. I think there's a gentle balance between it both, but I think it's still coming up to that. It is still something, and you get so caught up. The issue is, especially around nutrition, is it's so subjective. And I'll say this, until I'm blue in the face. It is so subjective, which is why I said at the beginning, it's very difficult for me to say, yes, take ashwagandha, yes, take maca, yes, take this, because if your body is out of whack, then it's not really going to matter what you take if you're not
finding the source,
and you're not filling in the basic building blocks. You can take ashwagandha, but what if what you need is vitamin C? What if B12 does better for you than any sort of maca would? Because actually it's your energy level, it's your metabolism, it's a gut-brain axis versus ashwagandha that will help you feel sexy, that will help balance your hormones. What if it's to do with you being stressed out and your gut being inflamed versus your hormones being unbalanced? And it's usually a good little dose of two, but you can't just take the pharmacy and think
everything.
Think you're going to be okay. If you think of the body is a very well-oiled machine. So if you think of it like a Formula One car, you wouldn't just fine-tune the engine and then let it go with old tires. You would fine-tune the engine and do the tires and let it go.
Yeah. I have a gift for all of our viewers from our amazing sponsor, Love Shop Cyprus. Love Shop is the largest adult store chain on the island, offering the biggest and most exciting collection of sex toys, lingerie, and sexy accessories and more. If you're in Limassol, you can visit one of their 2 modern stores located in Omonia and Yormasoya. You'll not only get to explore thousands of options in person, but their expert staff will also be there to give you advice and help you find exactly what you need. Of course, if you prefer shopping from home, head over to loveshop.cy and browse their full collection online. Everything is shipped discreetly, so your frisky secrets stay just that, secret. They've got everything from vibrators, lingerie, to naughty gifts and sexy games. Perfect for bachelorette parties or just some fun in the bedroom. And here's the best part. Use code LOVESHOP at checkout and get 10% off your entire purchase. So go ahead, visit loveshop.cy and use that code to treat yourself. If somebody is looking to boost their sexual health and their energy for their relationship, what would you suggest?
I would say start at ground zero. Make sure you're getting hydrated, first and foremostly. And not just hydrated in the sense of you're drinking a liter of water at a time. Make sure you're getting 2.5 to 3 liters of water. Some people may need more, some people may need less. Throughout the day, sipping throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, make sure you're getting adequate vegetable intake. Make sure you're getting adequate fruit intake, and which can be half a plate of your food. Mm-hmm. Right, it's half of your plate that you would normally have, and then have your protein. Make sure you're getting different proteins, and then have your starch and carb. Make sure you're getting a whole foods diet, less processed stuff. Mm-hmm. If you're having caffeine, maybe make sure you're keeping an eye on how much caffeine you're drinking. For every 1 cup of coffee, you're meant to be having two pints of water.
Didn't know that.
So it's a balance there. Once you think you're in a good place with that. For example, I think a lot of people think, well, I eat really healthy and I go to the gym and I this and I that. Those people are some of the most unbalanced people I know, because they are so focused on looking a certain way and looking fit and looking healthy.
And not going internally.
And not going internally.
Yeah.
How many women do you know who look so fit? Let's look at, for example, strongman competitions or, bodybuilders. Mm-hmm. They lose their period completely. Mm-hmm. So that's going to affect their sex drive.
Wow, yeah.
Right? I mean, it happens to a lot of athletes, I can say things like, as a man, you should take ginseng. Ginseng's going to make you, it's going to make you virile, it's going to give you energy, and, it's a good, what we're talking about there is it's good for circulation. However, if you have gout, if you have a messed up liver, if you drink too much, if your blood pressure's messed up, you think a little bit of ginseng is going to help you?
No, of course not. Yeah.
You have to start with these building blocks. And I get a little bit agitated with a lot of the Instagram nutrition, a lot of the YouTube nutrition of very basic ideology, mm-hmm. of saying, if you take this, you're going to be rock hard for hours.
Yeah.
But okay, it's a short-term answer. It's a bit like that little blue pill, mm-hmm. short term, but if you keep taking it, it can affect your heart, it can affect your liver. Mm-hmm. So you want to be taking things, making sure that your body is working in all together, which is a bit of a boring answer for, what can I do for right now?
Yeah.
But even if you started taking ginseng or maca is very good for women, things like ashwagandha is very good. But if you start taking them, it's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be 6 weeks, maybe more, depending on where your body is at right now.
And your situation in your life, like you said, diet, exercise, those sorts of things as well.
Mindset, stress levels, all of it comes into it. I mean, I think most of us can attest to being in a relationship and you're trying to eat well, you're trying to exercise, you're trying to have an adult life, you're trying to look after the kids, all of this, and then you're trying to have sex on top of it. That's totally disregarding the emotional need that's behind it. Mm-hmm. It's not. Your body is a very, as I said, it's a very well oiled organism. Everything has a place. You have your biochemical, that's your hormones. You have your emotional needs, and then you have your physical, your spiritual, and all these other things that come into it. Mm. It's not just, well, I'm going to make it do this. Some people, yes, but you pay a price. Mm-hmm. So if we talk about caffeine and coffee, for example, mm-hmm. that's going to, coffee and caffeine can be very beneficial. There's this whole concept of how caffeine can actually make your orgasms more intense. But what it's talking about there is your cortisol being spiked. It's talking about your circulation improving. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't necessarily, but then if you're a chronic caffeine drinker, it's not going to have the same effect.
Yeah.
Something like green tea, for example, has a much higher caffeine rate than coffee does. Coffee has, I don't remember the numbers, but coffee has, I think, about half the amount of green tea and matcha. It's full of, green tea and matcha is also full of antioxidants. But I would say the same thing if you were drinking cups and cups and cups and cups of it all throughout the livelong day.
Yeah.
It's a bit like saying, oh, red wine's good for you.
Yeah. And then
it's
drink 10 glasses.
Exactly, then it's not.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation.
Of course.
So when it comes to the body and with what you're eating, you want to be able to make sure you're getting everything in moderation, but you also want to make sure that you're supporting the body. And we have to sort of parent ourselves in this, because we want the sweet drink, we want the carbs, I'm not demonizing carbs, maybe starches, maybe cookies, maybe processed sugars. I'm a big Whole Foods kind of girl, Whole Foods diet, you know? But if you're having that every day, all day, it's not going to benefit you.
No, and it's going to make you feel worse.
It's going to make you feel worse.
In any situation.
Yeah.
Not just sex alone. You know, you're going to have your peaks and then troughs in energy levels as well, aren't you? So.
You know what I do buy into a little bit is aphrodisiacs.
Oh, okay.
Not massively.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is a bit of a placebo effect.
Okay.
But, for example, something like chocolate, it actually has the building blocks. It has things like tryptophan, which are part of building blocks for serotonin. However, if you're having like dairy milk, that's not chocolate. That's milk and butter and all the tasty things, sugar.
Yeah, sugar, everything.
So when they say, you know, chocolate is an aphrodisiac, they mean cacao, which is known to be stimulant.
So would dark chocolate be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a good quality dark chocolate would be better. And I'm a dark chocolate girly. Like, I live and die by it. But also for women, it has iron, it has magnesium, which is why we sort of lean towards it at certain times of the month. It's also a very emotional food. And I think also when it comes to sex, because most of us, you know, as whatever male bravado you want to come up with, we are all emotional creatures. We all have those things that we are attached to. You know, you ever try and tell someone that they shouldn't be eating something and see their reaction?
And you're like, no, I'm going to eat it all
now. I have to double down. Or if you're having your moment and you're having like a bar of chocolate and someone says, do you really want to eat all of that? Oh,
yes, I do. And I'm going to make you watch me eat it.
Exactly. And so when it comes to aphrodisiacs, there is an emotional aspect of it. If you come home and your partner has got chocolate-covered strawberries, it's not the chocolate that's going to make you, you know, horny. Yeah. It's the fact that your partner's like, babe, let's sit down. We're going to make the effort. We're going to feed each other. It's going to be cute and intimate and sexy.
Yeah.
And it can absolutely, you know, be a part of that intimacy.
Yeah.
So I do sort of buy into aphrodisiacs sort of as a placebo. I think there is validity to it. They have the building blocks for the, you know, all of this. They have all the chemical stuff that goes in it. But I do think, you know, or you go on a date and someone says, let's get some oysters. If you're into oysters, I personally struggle with them, but do you know, like, let's get some oysters, let's get some wine. Yeah. It's making something. Yeah. You're making a moment out of it.
Because it's also, I think, like, as well, like you said, the whole placebo effect, like, it's so ingrained in us that these types of items of food and drink and, you know, are to boost pleasure and things like that. It's just like, oh, okay, so we're going to do that. That's now going to, it's just all connecting, like, and it's just emphasizing the situation.
Yeah. And I think, you know, if we take date night into consideration here, right, something that I came up when we were talking previously was, you know, do you think there's a time of day that works when it comes to food?
Yeah.
Or food and sex. I think you can use that in a much wider concept of, if you eat too much, are you really willing to walk around and
do your thing?
If think about, for example, like after Easter lunch or after Christmas lunch or Christmas dinner or whatever you have, how much movement are you willing to do?
Nothing. I am horizontal.
Exactly. Which, you know, sometimes is beneficial.
Oh well, yeah.
But I think
girl.
But I think it's not so much about, okay, well, if we eat now in 1 hour, we can then have sex. No.
That does not sound good.
You know, but and also equally, if you go on a date with someone and says, hey, I've got a plate of 12 oysters, and then in half an hour you should be good to go. That's horrifying.
That is disgusting.
I'm leaving. No.
Yeah.
It's all interwoven. And I think food is so emotional, and it's such an integral part of who we are. Mm-hmm. So is our sex. When you are intimate with someone, you get to know them on a level that no one else knows them. Mm-hmm. You know, and even if that person has had sex with 1,000 people, they could be showing up in different ways in all of those sex. There's different personalities with different people, different ways that you connect with different people. So I think when it comes to food and amplifying your orgasm, food and amplifying your sex, you have to know A, where you are within yourself, and B, what it is you're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're in a long-term married relationship and it's a sexual relationship, and you want to be able to, you know, improve your sex life a little bit. The first thing I would say is, let's look at the liver, let's look at the circulation. You know, how's your...
For both men and women?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, for women, the first thing I would say is look at your stress levels. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, for women, I think, especially a lot in society, think that everything's on our shoulders, we have to deal with a lot, and we take that more internally. For men, when they're stressed, it's more socially acceptable for that testosterone to take over, this to take over. Unfortunately, stress can have effect on your blood pressure, which then affects your erectile function. Mm-hmm. As a side thought, there is, you see a lot of gym bros, and you know, they get all their stress out here, and they're all wonderfully body looks and all of this. A lot of the protein powder they're taking is actually having an adverse effect on their erections.
Why?
There are certain sweeteners and certain additives that over time will build up in the kidneys, and if your kidneys aren't doing the thing that need to be doing, and your kidneys are related to your adrenals, if your adrenals aren't being able to function in the way that they need to function, you're not going to get an erection. Wow. For women, it's slightly different. So there's a lot of different things to look at when it comes to, I think, sex and food, or sex and orgasm. I would say start at your building blocks. Make sure, if you're brand new and you want to make sure that you want to do something, you want to zhuzh up your life a little bit, I would say grab a vitamin C, grab a B complex, and probably a vitamin D. A vitamin D is essentially a hormone that you find it in olive oil, you find it in good quality fish oil, and it attaches. For women, it's a big part of our sexual drive, and for men as men as well, it's part of the hormone. It helps everything move along. That's why in the summer, when you're getting more sunlight, you might be feeling more frisky. Also, it's summer and you're outside and you're not cold.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Yeah. Hot girl summer.
But yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of different avenues that you can take with it.
Mm. As we were talking about boosting energy levels for sex, obviously we briefly mentioned that, like, for women, you know, everything's on our shoulders, which means we're very low on energy. So how does that affect our sex lives?
After a long day, and you know, you've probably been eating pretty sparsely, you know, grazing here and there. Are you feeling in the mood for it?
Not a chance.
Unless
I'm ovulating.
Well, that's different. That's nature.
Yeah.
I think, which is also interesting, because for some women it's the opposite. They have no interest in having sex then because their hormones are all out of whack. I think if we're looking for a bit of an energy boost, and you're already hydrating the way you need to hydrate, you're taking care of your caffeine, you're not drinking every night, you're not smoking, you're not smoking things that might not be all the way beneficial for you, whether it's vaping, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's weed, you might find that then ashwagandha would help you. You might find that maybe it's your circulation. Maybe you're finding that you're low in iron. A lot of women are low in iron. We have a sort of silent pandemic of people who are low in magnesium. And this isn't magnesium citrate, which is a laxative. It's magnesium glycinate, biglycinate. This helps your nervous system. It helps bring you back to your center. So, and this is why I say get a generic B or get a B12. That's also B1 theanine. That's going to help balance your nervous system. And so I think, I don't know many people that are too high in B. It's quite hard to be, unless you're eating organ meat every single day, in which case there is a whole other issue that we can talk about.
Yeah.
But, you know, having some basic things, making sure you're getting your vitamin C, make sure you're getting a magnesium, making sure you're getting a vitamin B. These are very basic building blocks. If you're already there and you know, you don't have a sex drive and you don't know why, and you're trying your best to do everything right, maybe it's mental. Maybe it's maca. Maybe, you know, maybe take a maca, see how you feel. Take an ashwagandha, see how you feel. Then start to look at things like, are your periods regular? Are they the right color that they should be? What is your discharge doing? Maybe you have a low-level bacterial infection. Maybe you have a low-level yeast infection that I think many women don't know about until it's too late, until they try and have sex, and they're just, they're just there, like, why isn't this comfortable? This is where I think self-pleasure comes into it, because then you can test the water around, do I hate the people around me? Am I stressed out? Or do I not have a sex drive? Because if you're taking a moment and you are really focused on all of everything else, and you've got all your bases covered, then you can start to look at, maybe, you know, you have an evening, you have some space, you have some time for yourself. You make a self-care, you make it nice. You take yourself on a little date, and you take time. Maybe you have some toys, you know. Maybe you're just exploring yourself. You get some oils, or you get some lube, or whatever you need, and you explore yourself. If you're finding your drive isn't going where you want it to be, you can't orgasm, you can't get there. You're not thinking about anything. You're all the way there except for your body. Then we look at, okay, your hormones might be out of place. Then we look at, you know, what other factors are they looking at? Medication, exactly. So there's lots of different factors to come into something, and it is such a broad topic. But I think this is where knowing your body and knowing yourself, and I mean, how many women would you say, you know, that don't really know, they don't even know what they look like? Yeah. You know, you don't really know how to engage with yourself. You don't know where your orgasm is, or like what she looks like, what, you know, how she might rise and fall. To then focus on, okay, well, actually, I'm feeling quite sleepy. Then how will you know, or I'm just not in the mood, or I don't know, I don't feel comfortable. If you're then taking maca and taking ashwagandha, taking ginseng, taking bilboa, all of this, you know, maybe you notice it starts to change. Maybe you notice your mood is better. Same with men. If, you know, you're finding that you're not overdoing it at the gym. Your body fat, you know, percentages is in a pretty good place. You know, it's not too high, it's not too low. Your stress in life is okay, but you just can't seem to get it to go somewhere. You can't get an erection, or you're struggling for things. You've checked your blood pressure's okay. You've checked medically, you're okay. I always say, like, you know, if there's something going on, check your systems, get your blood test, check your blood pressure, check your vitals. And if that's all checking out and you're still not getting there, then start to look at what is it exactly, and start to have that self-exploration, start to have that play, that you know, moment. And, you know, with men as well, to use toys to incorporate different things, to different aspects of stimulation, because maybe you then discover something that you do like or you do need. Maybe it's a mental thing, and then start to add the adaptogens in, and see how that changes things. I had a client. He wanted to get down to 8% body fat. And that's quite low. He's a very ripped guy. Okay. Gorgeous. About 30, 32, something like that. And he was already at 13 to 14%. Could not get to sleep to save his life. Had horrible insomnia. Horrible insomnia. Oh, God. But took all of the things, took ashwagandha, took things to boost his testosterone, was taking you know, vitamin C, was taking magnesium, vitamin A, was taking all of the things. And he was struggling with his erection, and he was struggling with maintaining it and then being able to ejaculate. That was his issue. And it wasn't so much a mental thing, and it, you know, his biggest thing is that he couldn't get to sleep, and, you know, he couldn't maintain his erection. We found out together that actually, even though he was taking things for his testosterone and he was on all the stuff, his cycle actually, it wasn't balanced out. He actually had very low testosterone, generally speaking, and it would only peak when he was taking it.
Oh, wow.
So, and he was taking supplements to help, you know, get it going. It wasn't so much, he wasn't on a cycle of testosterone. What we found actually that his body fat, he was pushing his body into fatigue, into burnout, because he was trying to get a lower and lower body fat, and his body fat was going into survival mode of, oh my God, I have to exist.
Yeah.
How can you maintain an erection then? If you're in burnout, and burnout means you've been in chronic stress for high periods of time, even though he had put himself there because he wanted to achieve a goal, his body was paying the price.
Yeah.
You know, and so you see the same with women, maybe in, you know, less extreme, but maybe women who they do their Pilates, they do yoga, they meditate, they have green tea, they don't drink alcohol, they do all these things. Let's say they've got all the mental care taken care of, but they can't bring themselves to orgasm. Then we start to look at, okay, you know, we might do a Dutch test, which is a dry urine test, and you see where your cortisol levels are, where your estrogen levels are, where they are at certain times of the day, where you wake up, when you go to sleep, if you're peeing at night. This is where you start to see what exactly you need, because there is no such thing as the wonder pill to make everything go away. And even if there is, it's short term. And it will have a consequence. Unfortunately, that makes me very boring in terms of solutions, but it's a building block. If you want long-term results,
that's with everything, though, isn't it?
Exactly. So, it's all in line with balance and how you connect things together. I think, and awareness. But I mean, that's my perspective because of the approach that I take to the work in holistic nutrition. And you know, when I talk about being an integrative healer, I have a background in counseling, and my that surrounds people, you know, coming out of sexual trauma, and especially adult survivors of childhood trauma, sexual trauma. They often struggle with how to have sex, how to connect, because there's just that block there. But what they don't realize, that as much as we can say, yeah, it's a mental thing and you work through that and you have to go through all the psychological support, we also look at, well, is your body in fight? Have you just been living in fight or flight? Have you just been living in high stress? And when you start to come out of that, you will feel tired, you will feel exhausted, your body will start to unwind, and you will hurt in ways you didn't realize you could. Things that never upset you before now suddenly upset you. But this is all part of it. Then you can start to support the body. Then you can say, okay, this is what you need here. I can give someone vitamin C and hope that their cold goes away, but if their cold continue and it turns out actually it's not a cold, it's something else, you know, or it's changed, or it's, you know, then you have to then adapt what you're taking to that.
Okay, so bringing it back to relationships and sex, bringing it back, we was already there, but still turning it around. Focusing. What would you suggest? So, you know, I've got a hot date coming up, or with my partner. What would you suggest, like food-wise, that would prepare me for a good night?
The night before?
Night before, day of, morning of.
I'm very boring. I'm going to say eat well, support your system. If you're looking for something that might give you, do something that makes you feel good. Eat something that makes you feel good. I don't necessarily mean eat a bar of chocolate. I mean eat something that makes your body feel good. And so that when you step into that room, you're not bloated. You know what makes you bloated. Know what makes you feel gassy. Know what makes you feel slow and tired. Eat things that you know that you're going to then open the door and say, I'm ready. As opposed to thinking, oh my God, I shouldn't have had, you know, a gyro at lunch.
Or a Big Mac.
Or a Big Mac, things that are going to slow you down. But this is the thing, I think we talk about, we mention processed foods, right? And it might be, you know, banging on an old drum, but these are going to inflame your systems. And because they're hard for the body to digest, because they feed the microbiota that don't do so much benefit for us. It feeds the negative microbiota that might, create dysbiosis, which is a unbalance of bacteria in the gut. You want to be eating things that give you a little bit of life. Make sure you're getting your antioxidants. A nice smoothie in the morning that is, probably lower on the dairy scale, because I think dairy, a lot of people are finding, more and more people are finding that dairy doesn't work so well for them. So maybe, a nice antioxidant filled, get some berries, get some avocado, or put that all in oatmeal and have that. Make sure that you're getting the building blocks of what you need for your day to day. It sounds very silly and it sounds very basic, but that's what's going to make you feel best. At lunch, make sure you're having something. If you're having dinner with your partner, for example, at lunch, make sure you're getting something that's not going to make you feel sleepy, that's not going to make you feel very full. If you have a gyro, or if you have, a burger, or, whatever. Fries, all this. You might be thinking, oh, I'm stuffed, and I feel like, and then you're going to be digesting it for hours and hours and hours, because it's quite hard for your body to digest, actually. As opposed to having, and I'm not saying have a salad. Eat something, fuel your body, so when you go out at 5, you can say, I'm hungry, but I'm also not angry. I'm not hangry, I'm not cranky.
Then you won't overeat, and then not
exactly.
Say the night's not ruined, but you're not gonna enjoy it as much.
Exactly. I mean, how many times have you gone out for dinner and you've really enjoyed what you're eating, and then you've gone back and you thought, oh, I really want to have sex. In the car you're talking a big game. You want to have sex, and then you get home and you are asleep. You're asleep. You're done. Because your body started to digest.
Taken over.
Exactly, because your body's taken all that energy to digest, which is great. It's been, you have a good time. But if you think, okay, this is date number whatever, and tonight's the night we're going to have sex, then this is where we take things into consideration. Make sure you're taking your supplements that day. Make sure you're getting vitamin C, very good for energy. Vitamin B, very good for mental well-being, very good for energy. And these are also very good for circulation and for your nervous system. Magnesium, I always say take at night, because it brings the body into a chill space. It's relaxing for your nervous system. It's relaxing. So if you take it beforehand and you're a bit spacey. I've been there. I've thought I was being really effective and really efficient, and then I'm just, I'm sleepy. Damn it. So I think take all that into consideration. You can get natural supplements that are supposed to give you a little bit of a zhuzh. And they do probably work, because they're working with the body's biochemistry.
Okay.
If you're on medications, please check with somebody who is not WebMD and not the internet, who is
an actual medical professional.
A medical professional. To whether it's your pharmacist or a doctor, to say actually this should be okay, or a naturopath to say this should be okay. But again, they would work quite short term. So it depends if you're looking for like a short term thing versus a long term thing. I don't rate things like people talk about adding THC to which is
what's THC for someone who doesn't know?
Oh, so THC is the drug that you find in marijuana that...
okay.
Yeah, so there's CBD and THC.
Oh, yeah, I know CBD, but...
Yeah, so I don't... A lot of people talk about, in places that it is legal, that weed is legal, marijuana is legal, you can get, for example, THC-infused lube or THC-infused condoms and all of this. While they can be beneficial in that space...
How would that be beneficial, though? What's the...
It can be stimulating, or it can make you, it's stimulating, it works either with relaxing your vagina or relaxing certain parts of you, or, some people will take THC in them to get their sex drive moving.
Okay.
When you do that, you're borrowing serotonin from tomorrow.
Oh.
Not literally, but you're not, it's not a long-term thing. So I don't rate things like THC or THC-infused things. Are they fun in the moment? Yeah, absolutely. But long-term, I think you can do more damage to the body than, because for women especially, it might help in some aspects, but in other aspects, if something's numb within you, then let's have that check. Let's explore that. Let's not just add a random lubricant to it to like make it better, like the icy hot lubricants, you know, same thing. It's to bring circulation there, to inflame it, to make it awake. Yeah. But if you keep doing that, how is it affecting your pH? How is it affecting your bacterial balance? You know? Mm-hmm.
What are bringing it back to gut health and microbiomes, what are the symptoms that you have a unbalanced gut?
So when we look at dysbiosis, which means you have the unbalance of gut bacteria, where the biggest indicator is something called leaky gut. Leaky gut is
sounds awful.
It sounds awful, but it's not. It's not like IBS or IBD at all. It's to do with the nutrients that you're getting in. Dysbiosis often correlates with leaky gut, right? And most people will have it. Most of us here will have some level of dysbiosis. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's not like this thing of you will know immediately.
Okay.
It's something that builds over time. A lot of us, based on the childhood that we had, will have some level of it until you become aware and start to feed into it. I would say some indicators would be, for women, your vaginal health. How often are you getting thrush? How often are you getting BV? How often are you getting ureaplasma?
What's that?
Ureaplasma is a bacteria that lives inside you. It can be sexually transmitted, such like the same way BV is, but it also is, it can be quite hard to get rid of with antibiotics. You might take several rounds, or you might find that it just pops up randomly. It can be quite difficult to get rid of. When it comes to taking note of what's happening with your body, I think if you're finding, for example, as I said, for women, you've got high levels of bacterial vaginosis, you're getting thrush over and over again. Thrush is an indicator of an overgrowth of fungus in the gut. That's normally where I go to. Or that you're using something that isn't beneficial for you. Like there's like wipes, like your certain types of wipes or things like that, right? Yeah. If you're finding that your skin's very dry, if you're you've got a lot of puffiness under the eyes, you've bad breath, especially and I don't just mean like morning breath, bad breath. I mean like something's died inside you.
Yeah, like is that halitosis?
Yeah, like halitosis. That you're finding that you have a white on the back of your tongue. That's like the covering. That's also another sign of it. Acne, like especially along your jaw, that's a hormonal imbalance that also indicates that you've got stuff going on inside the gut. I think fatigue's a huge one, but it's also one of those things of, am I fatigued or am I stressed or am I this? And the answer is probably a little bit of everything. Yeah. You know? Because when we are stressed, we tend to just eat whatever. You know?
It just makes it worse.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, but a great way to help balance this out is to, as I said, make sure you're eating a lot of dark green. Cooked dark green vegetables. Like slightly cooking kale, slightly cooking spinach, chard, which is also known as silver beet. All of these things are going, the fiber moves through your system, it fuels your liver, it helps everything moving. That's a great place to start with it. I wouldn't jump to level 3, I'm going to do a juice cleanse, or I'm going to do a fasting cleanse.
Do you think they would be more detrimental
in some cases? Yeah, absolutely. In some cases, absolutely. For a lot of people, they think, oh, it's so whatever, like I do eat healthily, I do this. If you're eating mostly fruit, for example, that's a lot of, even though it's good sugar, even though it's okay and it's full of fiber, I'm not demonizing fruit.
No, God,
but what do you think it's doing to all the bad bacteria?
It ferments a lot as well, doesn't it?
Exactly, and what is it doing for your liver, and how is it feeding the fungi? They love these sugars. If you're finding that you're getting dehydration headaches very quickly, it's probably an indicator that you've got something going on in your gut. If you eat and then you're immediately bloated, something's probably going on in your gut.
I've had all of these.
Yeah, I mean we all have, right? And it's not saying that it happens all the time. No, but you don't necessarily exist in it. You know? If you're very stressed, if you're going through a very stressful period in your life, or you're just running around a lot, it happens. You might find that, oh God, I'm not digesting very well. That might not have to do with the food that you're eating. It might have to do with the fact that you cannot stop and eat. You cannot let your body rest and digest.
Because you're not supposed to eat standing up, are you? Is that right?
No, because you want your circulation to be going to your stomach, to go to the digestion. You don't want it to be in your extremities. So you want to rest and digest. And this comes into massively with sex. If you're just inhaling, then being like, let's go.
Yeah.
There. Ooh. Do you know that might not be as beneficial?
Just throw up all over it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, you know, if you have a boozy night out, for example, and then you go and you grab a kebab, and then you go and have sex with some guy, do you feel your best in the middle of it? I mean, no. The answer to that is no. So, I mean, if you do, good on you. But you know, for the most part, no, because your body is having to work on everything else, and now it's doing this, and it's doing a cardiac exercise. Bring it back a bit. When it comes to the balance of your gut microbiome, it's never going to be, oh, well, I see that you see this a lot. You see, here's 5 things that let you know that you have fatigue, that you have, you know, dysbiosis. I see that a lot in nutrition talk and, you know, nutritiongram. Yeah. And you just think, okay, well, yeah, those 5 things could do with dysbiosis. But if you then have, it's not dysbiosis, but it's something else, and someone goes, I'm going to fix my, I've got an imbalanced gut bacteria, so I'm going to fix that by taking a probiotic, that might make it worse. Oh. Probiotics are good, but if you take too many of them and you'll notice you're gassy and you're bloated, you're probably taking too many, or it's not what your body needs right now. If you can't talk to a professional, if it's not something that, whether it's a naturopath or a nutritionist or holistic nutritionist, then I would say start with the basic building blocks. Make sure you're getting enough water. Make sure you're hydrating properly. And you're eating, you know, a good amount of greens. You're eating, you know, half a plate of greens and a third a plate of different proteins. Making sure, and different proteins could be, you know, beans and rice. That will make a protein, you know, because it's protein combination. And then, you know, making sure that you're getting your carbs, because your body needs glucose.
We need to eat carbs, guys. Let's not hate on them.
Don't demonize the carbs.
Yes. God, I love a potato.
Yeah. But like, I don't think it's not all carbs. I don't think all carbs are made evil. If you overdo on like white potatoes, it's going to affect your body in a different way. If you overdo on sweet potatoes, it's going to affect your body in a different way. You integrate all of these foods and use them for your benefit. As I was saying, if you were running around before I was saying, if you're running around and you're finding you're bloated, but you know it's not really the food that's the issue, change what you're eating to be lighter, to help, but still keeping you fueled and going, or eat little and often. Unfortunately, there's not a one answer for everyone. Yeah. Everything is so subjective. Did you know your gut microbiome is as unique and individual as a fingerprint? Wow. Which makes it crazier to think, bringing it back to the beginning, that when you're with somebody, you share up to 30% of it. 30%, and that just increases the longer you're with them. Because you're sharing other things. It just
grosses me out. Not in a bad way.
Well, you put your mouth on things.
Yeah, I know, but like,
okay.
Just thinking of, I've got somebody's microbiome inside of me.
Stress you out?
Yeah, like, because I know how badly he ate and like, you know, didn't respect his body that great.
Yeah, and now you're starting to think of like, oh, that's why I'm bloated. Are you feeling less bloated now that you're, you know, if you've been in a situation? Do you find that maybe when you look at someone you think you're not eating great, and then when you're not with them anymore, you're like, oh, I actually feel fine. I feel better. There's also stress that comes into it in all of this, but yeah,
it's a whole other story.
Yeah, but it's a variety of things, right?
Yeah. We was talking about processed foods before, and obviously everybody knows that processed foods are bad. Not bad, but like, you know, not the best for us. What do you think the reasoning is for processed foods diminishing our energies and sexual health and gut health?
I think when we talk about processed foods, you have to be very specific with what you talk about as well, because if you have, I think in that topic, what we want to focus on are the hyper-processed foods. So things like seed oils, which is what's used for deep frying a lot, which is trans fats, which then sits like the messed up little Tetris blocks and gives, and like, you know, feeds into your cellulite. You want to talk about your, you know, sugars, and not just sugar like you get in fruit, but it is hyper refined sugar in a way that we're not, even if you chewed on a sugar cane, you
wouldn't be as bad.
It wouldn't be the same type of sugar. You know, we're looking at high fructose corn oil. We're looking at all these different ways that make all of our favorite foods very tasty. It's difficult for the body to process. And without getting too technical, this is where, you know, you start with the buildup of you know, plaque in the heart. It can lead to things like that. It can lead to, you know, having fuller blood vessels, higher levels of fat, and not the good type of fat. It feeds into the concept of, without getting too political almost, of what our bodies are naturally born to eat and take in. I don't all the way buy into the paleo diet, but this is sort of the line that I'm going, that we essentially have a very similar system to one of our Paleolithic and Neanderthalic ancestors. So our systems work rather similarly. We just made life a lot easier for us.
Is that just like a we're Homo sapiens.
Yep,
wow.
well done. That's okay.
Stupid.
That's okay. No.
Like, explain what a what you just said.
Oh, Paleolithic?
Yeah.
Caveman.
Okay, caveman.
Yeah.
There, I was getting that way.
Yeah. No,
that's what I meant to say.
That's okay. It's just a very bougie word for it.
Yeah.
No, it's the idea that we eat what our caveman ancestors would eat.
So meat and
I mean,
vegetables,
kind of in a way. The paleo diet, I don't think is for everyone. I think it works for some people, but I don't think it works for everyone. Like with every diet you could show me.
Yeah.
When we talk about this is where I was very specific with hyper processed foods, because I think extra virgin olive oil, actually, it's been proven, we found, is actually very good for you. It's got lots of omegas in. It's got antioxidants. It's got all the good things. The thing with seed oils is the way that you have to get the seed oil out is you have to use quite a few different chemicals. And again, I'm trying to avoid being very, very technical.
Yeah.
But you have to use
Dumbing it down for the simple people.
No. But you have to, otherwise it becomes very boring and very long and very scientific. No, but you know, you end up having to put a lot of these chemicals in to get the extra squeeze, the extra bits of oil out. And if you were just having, you know, fresh cold press sunflower seed oil, for example, it's not going to be as bad for you. It's like eating a sunflower. It has some benefits to it. Same with pumpkin seed oil. But the minute you start to really hyper process these things, like we have good quality bread, like sourdough bread. It's filled with that it's filled with that really wonderful live yeast. It's a probiotic, which our gut loves. Great for our gut bacteria. But we then take that super processed white bread, right? That is deliciously soft, and it's very
melt in the
mouth, and it's, you know, you can butter it up, and you can, you know, you toast it, and it's still crunchy on the outside and still very soft on the inside.
Making me hungry,
right? These breads have an increase of sugars in them, increase of salts. It's different in Europe and in the UK than it is to the US. The US has the laws
a lot worse, isn't it?
Well, the laws are very different in terms of what they allow within their food.
But I think Europe's more strict.
Europe's very strict. The EU is incredibly strict on what they allow in their foods and what constitutes as bread. And there are some things that can't be constituted as bread anymore. They have to be constituted as cake. And it'll say it in very, very tiny writing on the product, kind of, in a way. So this is why I say hyper-processed, because bread is considered a processed food. It goes through a process to get it. So paleo people who follow the paleo diet wouldn't necessarily eat bread as we know and love it. They would eat, you know, whatever nut, like whatever variety that they can have, but because it's a process. But actually, sourdough bread is okay within certain scope of things. It's fine. If you're having the hyper-processed all the time, that's where it's going to start to create the low-level inflammation in your liver, because it's spiking your blood sugar in a way that your body's not really designed for it to be. You might notice that if you have one of those icy pops, I want to say popsicle or lollipop. And it's just sugar and coloring and water
and ice.
It's delicious. However, do you notice that you have that, you get hyper, or you see it in kids, they get hyper and then they crash. So tired. That's because their body, given it a huge glycemic index spike, just all the way, and then it's tried to process that glucose, and then it's crashed.
Yeah.
And so your energy goes up because our body runs on glucose. It goes up, and then it goes down again.
Yeah.
You know, so there's all these different ways of looking at it. Even with ice cream, for example, you can get good quality ice cream that won't make you feel as tired as lower quality ice cream. Why? Because the fat helps carry the glucose. A really yummy treat that is very good for you, and you know, it's a superfood and it's filled with protein, is dates with peanut butter.
I've made them before.
So good.
Dipped in chocolate.
Yeah.
And frozen.
Oh, incredible, right?
Yeah, so good.
But you won't get as tired when you eat those.
Yeah.
Because the fat that you're giving it and the protein that you're giving it via peanut butter actually is helping carry that glucose in your body to process that glucose. That's why there was that whole big trend with coffee and fat, mixing coffee with MCT oil and butter.
Yeah. Ooh, that did
But it was to carry the caffeine. The fat would carry the caffeine. So you would feel it for long because it wouldn't be as aggressive a process for your liver. The body is a very simple mechanism that we just happen to abuse.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And not on purpose. We just follow lines that are set before us. However, if you take it back to eating, as I said, a very whole foods-based diet, you will find a huge change in your life. You will find a huge change in your sex drive, which is what this is all about anyway.
Yeah.
You will find that actually, I don't feel like I need to go to the toilet 5 times a day and I'm bloated and nothing feels good and I feel fat and oh my God. You might feel, actually I feel better today and everything's moving the way it is.
Yeah.
90% of our serotonin comes from our gut. Think about it. 90% of the thing that makes you happy comes from your gut. So if that's all messed up, you're not going to be feeling great.
Yeah.
Which isn't going to make you feel so sexy.
Yeah. And not ready to jump on your partner.
Yeah. So there's all of these different levels with it, I think.
Can you give me your final thoughts on how to maintain a healthy gut, which in turns
feeds into a healthy sex life?
You took the words straight out of my mouth. There we go, yeah.
We're finishing off each other's sentences already.
We're so connected.
Not by ocean yet.
I was going to say.
I think, very boringly, make sure you're getting a whole foods diet. Make sure you are hydrating yourself. That is so important, is make sure you are hydrating yourself. But also, as a side, it makes you taste better for your partner. I mean, think about it. If you haven't had any water all day and then you pee and it's that like awful dark color and it smells weird.
Ah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's going to affect your sweat. It's going to affect everything. And it's the same when you start to eat a whole foods diet. It's going to change the way you taste. It's not going, your body's going to be working in a way that it's meant to. And so systems are going to be more efficient. Systems are going to be more smooth. You're not going to have as high levels of inflammation. So a whole foods diet, which means minimizing hyper-processed foods, and it means having things like olive oil, it means having things, fermented products like sauerkraut, like pickles, like, here we get pickled chilies, things like that. Making sure you're getting probiotics, making sure you're getting prebiotics, like garlic, like, things that feed your gut in the best way. Making sure you're getting your green veggies, your protein, and whatever is your carb of the day, whether it's quinoa or brown rice or a piece of really good quality bread. That's what's going to do you the most help over eating whatever fried food, fast food, all of this all the time. But you're taking ashwagandha, but you're taking ginseng.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to know where to start with your supplements around that, get a vitamin C. Make sure you're getting your antioxidants. If you're not getting your antioxidants from food like berries and fruit and colorful veggies, then you can find supplements for that. You can find, you know, a complex B or a B complex. That's going to benefit your nervous system. I think that, you know, a vitamin C, a B complex, a magnesium, and a vitamin D is a good place for anyone to start.
Okay.
And making sure, again, that you're getting half a plate of veggies. I cannot stress this enough, because so many people tell me that they're eating half a plate of vegetables. But then the vegetables they're eating are like turnips and potatoes, which are good, but that's not a green veggie.
Yeah.
And it's not always beneficial for it to be cooked all the way through and raw. Make sure it has a crunch to cooked all the way through and totally soft. Make sure it has a crunch to it. You know, otherwise you're just boiling away all the nutrients.
Yeah.
If you're always eating cooked veggies, include some raw ones into your diet. Have celery sticks. Whenever I'm doing a hard cleanse and I'm trying to get away from sugar, I have something that a lot of people make fun of me for. I thoroughly enjoy it. I call them apple cookies. Okay? And what it is you cut apple into circles, and then you put peanut butter on top because that's the icing, and then you have apple cookies. But it's something like that is going to give you a little bit of a boost. It's not a treat. It's something sweet. It's something to give you a little bit of a snack to look forward to.
Yeah.
And it's a very basic place to start. Eating well doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't mean eating boring salads with nothing on.
Yeah.
It means eating good quality whole foods.
Yeah.
And making it fun. There's so much information on how to make that fun.
Definitely. There's so many recipes online that you can go to and get different and fun, interesting recipes. Yeah.
You can munch on celery, you know, not on its own. But yeah, hummus, exactly. Celery and hummus, and you know, hummus and rice cakes. That's high protein because of the protein combination that you make within it.
That sounds very yum. Yum. Where can people find you to, you know, get some more information or, you know, book a consultation?
I'm available at GabriellaByName.com and on Instagram at GabriellaByName. And I'm always around for a message and a convo about how to better the quality of your life and your sex life.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I have learned some very interesting things. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share it with your friends. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any new episodes of Love Shock. And for even more juicy snippets from the episode, follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Love Shock Podcast CY. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.